Second CEO for tonight is Jess Wilson, who has an amazing story of fighting against the currents of expectations. So please join me in welcoming Jess Wilson.
Amazing. Hi guys, my name's Jess Wilson and I'm the founder and CEO of Stashed. And what I'm going to speak to you about today is essentially my very first-hand experience with being an entrepreneur and starting and running and scaling a tech startup. So we'll start from the beginning. This is where I grew up, a tiny farm town called Karangi. In Karangi there's literally a corner store, a pub, a post office, a primary school, and that's it. So that forced me to be very resourceful. What I did is I launched my first company at around 16 years old. I found that after our principal band formal after parties, we had a nice potential venue in the farmland that we had. So I pitched the idea to my parents to launch the ability to host these school kids, the ability to host formals and formal after parties, or be able to make some money on the side, and it made a lot of sense for them that was getting me to do something productive with my time because there was not much else to do in Karangi. So we did that, and we did that for one high school. We then scaled that and did multiple 16s, 18s, 21sts, which then made me enough money to put myself through university. So I left the very small farm town, moved here to Sydney, and went to university here. And one of the first things that I had to do in university was choose an internship that I wanted to do in the business space that I was studying. And I went to my careers advisor and I said, I want to do an internship in fashion. I've always had an interest in the topic and that's where I want to learn. And I remember she sat me down and she said, Jess, to be honest with you, you don't have it in you. You don't have it in you to have a career in the fashion industry. So let's put you in something more realistic. And I remember that feeling still to this day. I went home, I cried for 2 days, I came back, I looked her in the face and I said, watch me. So what I did is I figured out that if you tie helium balloons to bottles of champagne and send them to PR companies, they're likely to at least have a copy with you. And then from using that strategy, I got internships which led into full-time jobs throughout Australia, New York and Paris Fashion Week. I then noticed a trend that online was moving forward, brick and mortar were moving back, and I wanted to be ahead of that trend. So I booked a one-way ticket to Silicon Valley, didn't know anybody, I think I was just 21 at the time. Very scary process. The 2-minute noodles are there because that's all I ate for 3 months. I lived in a hostel, ate 2-minute noodles, but went to the Facebook and the Google and networked and wanted to meet people that were in this tech industry because that's where the industry that I was so passionate about was moving to. So I did. I learned a lot in Silicon Valley and I merged that with my love of the fashion industry. And what we decided to do was build an online shopping app which allowed brands to have a presence on mobile and also essentially gamify data so that they had more data to work with going into a buying season. So we launched Stashed back in 2014, and 2 or so years in, we were getting a lot of traction, we had a few retailers on board, and then we had a very unique opportunity come our way. We had a TV production crew who was in Sydney casting for a TV series called The Next Unicorn. What The Next Unicorn was a cross between Shark Tank and The Apprentice, but it aired in China. So they were essentially looking throughout Australia, the US, the UK, India, all throughout Asia, searching for the next billion-dollar tech business. So I happened to be in the right place at the right time. They asked me to pitch in the competition. We made it as one of the 55 finalists to go through to Shanghai, and we had to pitch to the likes of the ex-CEO of Alibaba, seed investors in Baidu, seed investors in PayPal. And just to give some context, I don't speak a word of Mandarin. So I would pitch to these people who all spoke native Mandarin. We had 200 people in an audience. We had cameras filming us, which we knew that content was going to go through to 15 million people in China. And we had to pull together the courage to be able to pitch your business, answer questions, take on challenges, all whilst taking into account the language barrier. So we did that, and we managed to make it to the grand final of this TV series, and we placed with third, which was all very exciting. So we got the bronze trophy, and we knew that we had roughly 3 months or so before the show went to air. So the whole team didn't necessarily sleep for 3 months, and we then were all gearing up for the launch of this episode, and we had shareholders, and we had our tech team, and we had our marketing team all in the office, ready to see what the analytics were going to do, because we knew this was airing to 15 million people. And we got 11 downloads. We had that air to 15 million people in China. I sat there as the CEO with our shareholders and our development teams, my friends, my family. There would have been at least 15 of us in that room, and we got 11 downloads. And my heart sunk to, I feel like, beyond ground level. And it was an incredibly difficult time to speak to the shareholders, the team. I'm a very young CEO, I'm 25, and I often manage up to people who are 35, 40. So there was a lot there that I had to manage their expectations and belief in me as a leader. And I had two decisions. And I saw this quote. And I thought, okay, well, there's one of two things I can do here. We can either take this as a learning curve and say that we did this amazing show and that was it, or we can iterate. We need to figure out what went wrong, we need to figure out what we can do better, we need to figure out how to package the information that we have, and we did that. So we changed our whole approach, we started to target towards the fashion industry, and we did that. And what happened was, over the next 3 months, we managed to feature as one of the best new apps in the Tencent App Store. Those of you who are familiar with China, Tencent's one of the largest internet companies in China, and Tencent's the largest app store in China. So for the next 3 months following that, we took all the data we had, we iterated, and we managed to secure a deal with Tencent in which they became a strategic shareholder in the business. Now Stashed is launching Western fashion brands into the China millennial market with the help of Tencent. But absolutely none of that would have happened if we decided to give up after we got 11 downloads. And none of that would have even happened if I decided to give up after the careers advisor said I couldn't do it. So I guess the message that is instilled in me and that is just become such a massive part of my life is there's always going to be people who tell you you can't do something. There's always going to be circumstances which knock you back. But it's a matter of how do you get back up and how do you keep pushing forward from there.